Welcome back to Danny Rants. Today we have a very special guest like we always do. We have a model, a content creator and a fellow podcaster by the name of Krystal Galtry. How are you, Krystal?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
We caught you in Melbourne. You're not often in Melbourne, so thanks for coming down.
Yeah, no, I'm not. No. It's my pleasure.
You just got back from Coachella and Stagecoach, I saw?
I did, yeah. And then I went straight to Queensland for a wedding and I think I've been back like 3 days.
Mad.
And I'm off to Bali in 2, so
quick in and out.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know who you are, how would you explain Krystal and what you've been doing for the last decade to people who are watching you for the first time?
A hot mess. That's pretty much it. If you've been following my socials, you know I'm a bit manic, unfiltered, casually look good in a photo and somehow make money through all of it. Entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like you call it that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, if you have to give it a title.
Yeah, awesome. And you're a local girl from Morno, right? Morno Peninsula?
Frankston South.
Franga.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So we know each other from back in the day. So you used to be an attendee of Fake Tits through a friend of yours called Buddha.
Yes.
So I've sort of been watching your journey from afar. So I'm pretty well versed in what you've done and where you've been. When you were going out, what clubs were you going out to?
Oh, stop it. When clubs were good, when clubs were around. Lab 22, two floors up. Yeah. Sorry, Grandma, Tramp, Revs, Circus, Breakfast Club.
It's all the good ones.
I was one of those people.
Yeah. And then I don't even know how I know this, but for some unknown reason, I knew that you were a madame at a brothel. So when I hit you up, I was like, hey, A, is this true? And you're like, yep, you confirmed it. And then B, I was like, can we chat about this? And you've said yes, right?
Yes.
So can you walk me through how you got into a role working as a madame at a brothel?
Do you know, it's actually really, really random how I got into that role. So I was living in Europe for about 3.5 years and I came back to Australia. And this guy that I used to do future music like promo and stuff for sort of hit me up being like, hey, you're in Australia. I have this cash job. Do you want it? And I was working at a cafe at the time and I was like, yeah, I could do a cash job easy. There was like no insight of what the cash job was. And they gave me the address. I rocked up to Williamstown. It's called Spellbound. And I walked in and they said, we're all black, look presentable. And I was like, okay, like, is it a bar? What is it? I walked in and it was a brothel. And so they were pretty much like, what you need to do to start is be the girl that greets the guys at the door. So my first shift was like really like unknown, like what am I doing? I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. And so there's like someone behind the counter, which is the madam, and then there's a young girl that will generally stand there. And as a guy comes in, I'll greet him. I take them into a bedroom, sit them down, go into the back room, grab the girls, get them to come in. Each girl does her intro sort of like thing. They choose who they want. I come back. They tell me who. I partner them up in a bedroom. And I remember like my very, very first one was like this guy came in and I was a bit like, what the fuck is this job? And like, am I cut out for this? Like, this is really, really strange. And I remember he actually like touched my hand after he picked and I was really freaked out. I was a bit like, oh, don't touch me. Like, what is going on? But then like a few weeks in, I was like sitting on the bed with these guys, like laughing, picking the girls for them. Like, do we want a threesome? Do we want this? Like saying to the girls, who hasn't been fucked today? Like, who needs money? Who do you want me to sell? And it was just like so normal all of a sudden. But at the start, I remember walking and being like, how did I get here? What am I doing this for cash? And then, yeah, it went on for years and I ended up becoming a madame. It was fun.
So I want to deep dive into this and I'll tell you the reason why it's such an interest to me. So I have a random story that no one who follows me would know this, but when I was 18, I was like kind of jumping between jobs and jobs and jobs. Like much like yourself, I was a bit of a square peg looking for a circle hole that didn't exist. And my uncle used to have a job where he used to clean towels from brothels, right? Oh, yeah. So basically he had like his fucking industrial workshop in his garage where he had like laundry machines. So when I was 18, he's like, I need a driver. So I was like, yeah, sweet. So I basically would go to him and then I would get all these clean towels and like red bags and then I would take them to brothels all over the southeast Melbourne and drop them off. So I'm like fresh-faced 18-year-old kid. And then I would go into these places and like obviously I'd heard about them, whatever. And then it just fucking bemused me, right? So I'd go there before they opened. But ever since then, I've always been like, I would love to sit down with someone and just crack through this and deep dive into what actually goes on behind those fucking gates, I guess.
Yeah.
And now I've got the opportunity. So we're gonna start from the start and go from there. So that's how I got my interest into what goes on in there. And I remember there's probably some crazy stories that we can throw back to one another that I saw, which was before they were even open. So when you went in there the first time, obviously you didn't know, like what kind of hours were you working?
So I started 5 p.m. till 5 a.m. unless it was really dead and they let you go home earlier. And crazily enough, I would then start my cafe job 7 a.m. till 12 p.m. and then I would sleep and then I'd go back to the brothel.
Yeah, fuck. And you were living in Mornington Peninsula at the time?
Yeah, and the brothel was in Williamstown.
And so what was like, obviously you're the guy just going, hey, look, this is the cash job. Do you want to come and check this out? Without any pre-warning, you figured it out. But like, was there actually any formal training or was it literally just deep end?
No, literally not at all. Do you know what? I really think that the guy, and you might even know who I'm talking about, actually offered me this job and he's been in a lot of trouble and whatnot. I think he actually wanted me to be one of the girls that worked in like the actual industry of being the sex worker, because I think he sort of threw it out to me when I got there. He was like, you don't want to make extra money by doing this side? And I was like, no, I actually didn't. At that time, I didn't even know what was going on. But yeah, there was no training. It was just like, stand here, look pretty, convince them. If they say 20 minutes, you tell them half an hour. If they say half an hour, you say 45, convince them to go longer. And that was it. And they'll just like be polite. I wasn't allowed to use my real name because obviously my name was always taken in the brothel, so I had to make up a fake name. And
Thanks,
then
Mum.
like, yeah, I think you just get so used to it. It's quite robotic after a while, like, because it's the same process. But no, there's literally no training. It's just like, be kind, sell.
Hey, you talk about that stuff, like I'm guessing you were super young at the time and you talked about how you were scared. Like, how did you overcome that fear? Because I'm guessing it would have been super uncomfortable at the start.
Do you know what? I've worked in bars for a long time, and you already sort of have some of those interactions of people constantly hitting on you. In the brothels, I mean, it's a bit more full on. A lot of guys, like, every time would like, got to take them to a bedroom and they'd be like, how about you? Like, will you for this amount, blah, blah. And I think it just becomes quite, I don't know, like I said, robotic. Like it becomes like so frequent by the same thing, same conversation that you sort of just get quite used to what's coming your way. I think also I made quite good friends with a lot of the regulars, and you get to know them and you sort of become friends with them and you sort of understand why they're there, and you do understand a lot of why guys do come to brothels. It sort of just made it a bit more comfortable, I guess. That, and also the sex industry in itself, the girls are extremely nice. The girls are very open and they're very down to earth and they're super normal. There isn't anything weird or freaky about it. So like sitting in the back room with them, you're just talking about normal stuff. It's just literally a job.
I guess it's like taboos, right? You talk about what we were saying before we started this podcast. Like I talk about people doing drugs in back rooms or even back rooms in general, and everyone loses their mind. But it's this taboo breakdown. It's like once you actually know that this kind of hidden world and it opens up, traditionally it's not as fucking shiny as you think it's going to be. And that's the music industry. That's obviously the sex industry. I don't know. Is that the case there too?
Do you know, I think a lot of people think that drugs and alcohol are in brothels and in the sex industry, and there's actually not a lot. Like you're not allowed to work under the influence. So if you were under the influence, you'd get sent home. Our girls didn't do any of that stuff. They actually come in because they enjoy the job that they're doing. So, I mean, there's no glitz and glamour when you realize what's actually happening in the rooms and the quick changing of the bed sheets and whatnot like that. That's, yeah, it's like not as sexy and appealing. But when it comes to like the back end, it's not really as grimy as you think.
Yeah, no shit. No. I feel like nightclubs, they're pretty grimy.
No, they are pretty grimy. I honestly, look, I think the downside of working in the brothel was like you said you came with the clean towels. I picked up the dirty ones.
Yeah,
I picked up the dirty sheets. I did that washing. Do you know what I mean? I had to separate the condoms from the sheets and put the sheets in the wash and them in the bin. That was probably the grossest job. That was legit something I did. So that was probably the downfall of the job. But everything else, it wasn't. I think, no offense, guys, I think the men were the downfall. And not all, but some.
Yeah, for sure.
Mainly a particular type of man, which I think kind of fucks with the industry a bit.
Yeah, I want to get into that too, because I want to get into like what kind of people are going there, you know? Like when you were doing the role, like what other menial jobs were you doing other than just the greeting, and what was fun and what was shit? I know you talked about the tower stuff, but like what were you doing on a normal shift? Can you run us through that?
Yeah, of course. So it depends. Like you're either the madam, which means you deal with the cash and you sit behind the desk and behind the glass door and you don't come out of there, or you're the girl at the front that greets the guys, takes them through, puts them in the rooms, walks them in and out. As the madam, I think it was a lot more funner to sit behind the desk and sort of just know they come up, pay the cash, you write down the minutes. The girl will generally come up, you set her timer, she walks to her room, you buzz 5 minutes before it finishes. then they can come out within that 5 minutes, then you buzz again. So it's pretty simple. You answer the phone, they say who's on, you go through a list of girls' names that you have written down. And if they ask for Asians, Indians, whatever, you describe what they look like. So you sort of just got to know. That was like the simple job. I think the more draining job was the girl that stands at the front that walks people in and out, grabs the girls, sort of like constantly has to remind the girls, go in, greet, do this, do that, sit down with the guy and listen to him be like, I want this or this or this. And you have to try and like talk him into a girl. I don't know. It's like a bit more of a selling sales role. And it's a little bit odd after a while when you realize what you're selling. You're like, yeah, but she is good at head, or she's great in bed. Like, I don't fucking know. But I'm out there being like, yeah, this blonde girl is wild. And like, then he's like, does she do anal? And I'm like, let me go ask. And I run back. Do you do anal? Yes, anal. Run back. She does anal. And he's like, and what about the girlfriend experience? I'm like, girlfriend experience. I run back. Do you do girlfriend experience? She's like, yeah. And he's like, what does that mean? I'm like, why the fuck are we talking to me about this? Like, she literally was just in here where you could have this conversation. But that was a bit more full on. And obviously, if there's any issues and whatnot, the girl on the floor has to deal with it all because the girl behind the counter can't move and there are no men. So there's no security. Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to say, like, is there men in these establishments and do you have security? Look, sometimes on the weekends, the owner will be upstairs, but you won't ever see him because it's intimidating for a man to walk in and deal with a man when it comes to sex. So they like to keep it as just women. But I will tell you, like, if you have 12 sex workers in the back and you piss off one, that's a lot more scarier than one security guard, 12 angry girls coming in. So you didn't really need them. And there were cases where girls did come in, you know what I mean? Like each room has an emergency button. And if it's pressed, first you get me, and none of our doors lock. So first you get me, and then if it doesn't go down, then you get everyone. So what's a situation or an example you can tell me of that? Yeah. So in Australia, it is sexual assault to not wear a condom. You don't actually put the condom on yourself. She does it all. After you shower, she prepares it to ensure that everything is safe. There are a lot of people that come in that pretend they can't speak English and they do particular things they're not allowed to. Also, in the rooms, the girls set a price and a tone of what's allowed to happen. You may pay for 20 minutes of her time, but that doesn't include kissing or, you know, going down on her or anal or anything. That's up to her and what you set in the room with a price. So if you go outside of that and take advantage, that's when the button is pressed within those sort of times. And a lot of men, a lot of Indian men, unfortunately, do pretend they don't speak English and they do try and take it too far. And that's generally when the girl will press the button. And then it's when we come in. And so first off, you go in and say, hey, like, I just check in like, what's up, what's happening, see if we can resolve it. Because obviously we don't want it to be like a big deal. We're in the middle of sex. But then if they don't listen and they just pretend to do whatever, then the girls will sort of come in and sort of make sure it's game over. Because the last thing that's going to come to a brothel is a police officer or any kind of help in that way. So it's generally dealt with within the brothel from the girls. And it's interesting because that's the same as nightclubs, right? Like I've told people this before, but like we would call the cops only when it fucking escalated so badly. We needed police there, like someone had a gun or, you know, someone had been stabbed or whatever. If we called them and it was just a little brawl, you know, something we could have dealt with ourselves, the cops would actually yell at us and people don't know that. Yeah. So is that much the same in there? Look, because it's a brothel and unfortunately, I don't know why and I don't want to put shade on the police officers, but if we were to call the cops and there was actually something that's happening at that time, they'll show up hours later. Like they're no help. They're no help in a brothel. Simple. That's fucking illegal, hey? Yeah. So you think that they'd be like straight there, like realistically. Yeah, but they don't really give a fuck. Not in the ones that I've worked in. I've worked in more than just one brothel. I've worked in 3 in Melbourne. But yeah, I've never seen them ever show up to anything that's ever happened. That's crazy. And was there any situations you've ever had where like, you know, fucking you had to call the police? Only like there is like when it comes to like assault and stuff and like, I think we called the police maybe twice. Again, hours later they might show up for a statement. Yeah, that's scary. Then what happens? But no, generally like men don't do too much. Not the ones I've worked in so far, like because they're in a closed-in environment within another closed-in environment full of us. So I feel like pushing it too far and then trying to run off or whatever is a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, I
hard to
getcha.
get out.
Yeah. That's like the women that are working there from the Medan to the greeter. Like I'm guessing you've got to be pretty firm and concise and like confident.
The girls that work there?
Yeah, the ones who aren't sex workers.
Yeah, 100%. You can't be like soft-voiced and whatnot. Like I'm good at selling and I think I come across quite sweet, but the moment like I come in to ask a question, I also look quite intimidating. So none of the girls that worked were really like airheaded and whatnot. Like a lot of the madams and that were quite stern and rude, especially on the phones and stuff like that. Like, so people couldn't just call up and just waste your time.
When you got the promotion into a madam, like how did that happen? And then what was the difference in the changes?
I think they just realized how much of a bitch I was. And they're like, yes, she will do very well. Yeah, and I could count money. So, I mean, they're like, bonus.
Yeah. So going into the workers, right? So say I'm a brothel manager and I'm looking to get workers into my establishment. How the fuck does that even begin? Is it something you dealt with?
There's not really a criteria. I think it's just like an STD and STI sort of check. If you pass that, happy days, be over 18 years old. That's it.
But like, how do they even find people? Like, I'm guessing they're not putting it on fucking the local Facebook marketplace.
I mean, if a girl wants to work in a brothel, she'll find you. It's not hard, do you mean? But I personally had nothing to do with employment. I only ever brought one person in. She actually is a friend of mine. She still works in the brothels and she loved it. But the guy that hired me was paid by the brothel to find girls.
Yeah, there's
and
a guy,
he did a great job.
Yeah, there's a dude I know, I won't call him out, but no doubt people are going to know who he is. Another guy who worked in nightclubs and he used to constantly put up like Instagram stories being like, keen to make $500 per night.
I'm pretty sure it could be the same guy that we're talking about.
I think there's a high chance.
Yeah, he was a nightclub man.
Yeah, and what, they just get paid like a clip?
So I presume he gets a percentage of whatever girls he brings in, but I don't really know how that worked with him.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of, was there like a specific type of girl? There were all different types of girls that would come in? Yeah?
All shapes and sizes, all different ethnicities.
That's the word, yep.
Indians were the most popular girls.
Really,
because
why?
Indian men really only wanted to sleep with Indian women. So Indian women were booked out non-stop 24/7. And Indian men are the biggest clients to brothels. But yeah, literally all shapes and sizes. A lot of the older girls were more popular because for them, the industry was like, they loved giving the pleasure and it was so much more fun to them and their chat's good and the way they made the men feel. So the older women actually got a lot of clients. And then the younger girls that came in would be pretty and booked, but it's a mental challenge as well. So it just really depends if they could withstand what the old women could. So yeah, but anyone could go in.
So you talk about security, obviously, in their brothels, but other than that, I'm guessing there's sort of like another part to it, which is probably like mental health and different bits and pieces like that, or other people supporting each other. Was there other services externally that you guys offered within there for them?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing.
So it was definitely like what? Was a bit like a, this is your place, this is where you work, and you just pay percentage upwards?
Yeah, look, it literally was just like, you're hiring a room, take it.
Almost like a
There
tattoo
wasn't
artist.
anything else that was ever offered or given.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so the guys who own these places, would they come in or were they just like kind of always set externally, the guy with the license who didn't really have much to do with the day-to-day business?
No, they would come in on the weekends when it was really busy. Again, sorry to throw shade, don't really mind. But they weren't really that great. They only saw the girls as money. So they would push them, if anything, even if the girl was feeling sick or tired or whatever, it's like, no, you have to stay. No, you have to do this. The only incentive brothels ever gave was if you rock up before 11 a.m., you get $200 added to your end of the day because you have to stay till 11 p.m. And that was to make girls come in during the day because girls would make more money at night. So it was like an incentive and that was pretty much the only thing a brothel would give you. And
so if you were a working girl, like, do you know what the breakdown of percentage was to hire a room?
Yeah, so when I was working there, it's actually pretty rough. So I think for 20 minutes is $120. The girl would get, I think maybe the club would get 50 and the girl would get 70, which I think is fucked for 20 minutes to fuck someone for $70. Like I think that's like the venue's just really screwing the girl there. Half an hour, venue took, I think, 70 and the girl took 90. An hour was, I think, $250 per hour. and the girl took 150 and the club took 100. So like when I first went to the brothels, I didn't really understand how they made money because the venue actually takes a lot of their money. But then when I realized how it works in the rooms, I realized how they make their money. Because what you're promised at a brothel is a massage, oral, and sex. You're not promised cum, you're not promised anything like that. It's just promised the time frame and those 3 things within that time frame. If you want to kiss, touch, grab, go down, have anything outside of that is where she sets her price in the room and you give her that. We don't see that, talk about it, or touch it.
Okay.
That's hers.
Yeah, and that's like what, like an add-on sort of process?
Yeah, so they call it the girlfriend experience is the most common one, which is where you get to kiss them and touch them. And that's just like 50 or 60 bucks on top. And then it goes up from there in regards to particular things that they perform. Is
that sort of like a secret thing that the workers sort of have together, or is that the club knows that they're doing that?
No, the club definitely knows. That's up to them what they want to do in the bedroom. That has nothing to do with us. And it just depends on your looks and you on what you can charge. So it's not a set price. So I could turn and say, my girlfriend experience is 150, and the next girl could say 50, and the next girl could say 300. And that kind of is like the conversation that the guy gets when he's introduced to each girl. And sometimes they pick from looks and sometimes they pick from the price that the girls are offering.
So when these guys walk in, right, like even the thought of doing that, even meeting a greeter, getting into a room and then being brought all these women sounds super fucking daunting to me because I'm a bit of an introvert. It sounds like hell, right? Mm-hmm. But these guys that come in, like, are they fucking awkward and nervous? Like, who are the type of guys that are coming into these places, establishments? Mm-hmm. Who are the clients, or are they everyone too?
So I reckon 85% is Indians, a lot of truckers. Where we worked mainly when I was at Williamstown is like a truck stop sort of area. So a lot of truckers. They, again, would only really pick Indian girls. A lot of them would call beforehand just to see if Indians were in. If not, they probably wouldn't even bother. And then the rest were just like your common guy. On the weekends, I always found this quite strange. You'd get a lot of like Lebanese and Italians and that, and they come in groups and they do it as like a group thing.
What?
And they pick different girls and talk about it, and they sit around for hours and go in and out of the rooms with different girls, and they come in as like friendship groups, which I always found so bizarre because there's no alcohol and stuff in these venues. So they just just what they do on the weekends. But during the week, you just have your common like probably divorcee, younger dude, trucker, whatever coming past. And they generally would always pick like the younger girls. Yeah. Whereas like the groups on the weekend, they'd pick anyone, like they'd whatever's going sort of thing.
And so these guys are coming in, they're like super awkward? Are they fucking confident when they walk in?
The group's confident. They couldn't give a fuck. They're so loud. They're all like, there's like a sitting room and they all like talk and muck around and try and talk to me and talk to whatever girls. They could not care less. The individual guys that come during the week are generally quite shy unless they were a regular. The regulars start to get to know you, and then you'll walk in, you'll actually have like a general conversation with them beforehand and like muck around and then bring the girls in. So they sort of get to know you and they're fine. But yeah, I guess the more just like in and out sort of during the week guys were quite shy and a little bit embarrassed. I think also having an attractive girl greet you and then put you in a room is already a little bit intimidating because they're like, oh, now I got to tell her what I want. And I think that was a bit interesting for a few men.
But the interactions you used to have with them were the guys like when they would ask for weirder stuff or, you know, more extreme stuff, were they really fucking awkward or not?
I feel like they're awkward when they have to pick the girl and tell me who they want because I feel like sometimes they feel like, is this bad? Like, can I have that? But because they didn't need to tell me what they wanted and that was up to them in the room, it was never like that. I think the only times I ever got frustrated was when like the girls would come in, do their intro, and then I'd walk in and be like, who are you after? And he'd be like, oh, what's that one with the red hair? And I'm like, you're fucking her, so remember her name. Like that would be the only time I'd get like frustrated at the dudes. But other than that, yeah. I mean, you can sort of tell when someone's a bit shy, so you can sort of cater to that. I generally like a couple months in, I'd sit on the bed next to them. Well, okay, like what are we picking? What are we doing? Like sometimes I would even like upsell to the point where I'm like, do we want a threesome today? Like, let's talk about it. I know 2 girls that'll do that. Like,
are these regular guys who come in, would you say that they had like similar patterns or similar people, or again, just completely different?
Oh no, the regulars did not have a similar pattern. They were more than happy to try anyone, especially if I recommended it. They were like, fuck yeah,
That's so weird.
Yeah, I know. No one ever really came in for the same girl unless she was Indian.
Yeah, okay.
They were the only people that came in for the same sort of girls. Everyone else did not care. Though I will say, if there is a new girl, and we generally say on the phone, you wouldn't believe how many phone calls we get to be like, who's in? Seems the girls always change their name. I don't really understand why people would call for me to just list out 12 names for no reason. But if you go, or like, I remember there was a girl called Bambi, very young, very pretty. We'll be like, oh, Bambi's new. Like, I reckon she had like a line of people being like, oh, there's someone new. We got to try her. And so when they found out there was some new, then it was like, yeah, I've got to do it. But otherwise, happy days.
Is there any awkward encounters that you had with these clients that came in from regular to non-regulars that you can remember or tell us about?
There was one dude I knew. He was married. And I remember he walked through the doors and saw me and was just like, fuck, I've committed now. Like, I'm here. And I was like, hey. And like, it was just like this weird interaction. I put him in a room and then it's kind of probably a bit mean of me. I put him in a room. He picked the girl he wanted. And he's like 20 minutes. And I was like, I thought you had more stamina than that. 20 fucking minutes. And he was just like, and I was like, as if you had to do fucking 20 minutes. Like, what is that? And I like talked him up to like 45 minutes because I think he felt so embarrassed. I was like, is that all you need? And then I remember when he left, he sort of just like didn't even make eye contact with me. And I haven't seen him since, which is really good.
So reflecting back on your time in the sex industry, did you look back at it negatively or positively or like what
I loved it.
Did you?
I love the sex industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the sex industry now, but I love the sex industry. When I was working in the brothels, I started bartending in strip joints as well. And so I just love the girls within the industry. I love the way they support each other. And I love the weird shit you actually do see. And it kind of makes me like so like blasé to stuff now that like nothing could affect me. Like I could never be one of these woke people that gets offended by anything because I've just worked around the strangest like the strangest things and seen odd things. And yeah, I think it's fun.
So your time working the brothels, was there one moment or time that you can think of that was like really fucking strange that you can remember?
I think, do you know what? In two different ways. I think the biggest eye-opener was the first time I ever heard about sponges, which is when a girl has a period and she uses a sponge to block it to continue on. I didn't know that was a thing, how it worked, and it freaked me out thinking about how the fuck do you get the sponge out after? I think that was a bit of like a strange moment. And the reason I found that out is because one girl couldn't get hers out and I had to help her get it out. And it was like, what the fuck? Like, this is so odd. But at the same time, I'm like, spread your legs, let's go. Like, I'll help you out. So that was interesting to me because I like did not know that was like a thing. And then I think just the cleanliness is a bit of like a throw off to me about brothels now that I know what they look like and how they're run. And I'm just like, I'm really OCD on my cleanliness now, guys. I'm like psychotic when it comes to cleaning. It's probably because I worked in the brothels.
Yeah. And is there so like one request or one person that came in that kind of gave you like the heebie-jeebies or anything like that?
There were so many dudes. There were so many dudes that came in and did that. And like, especially when they come and being like, oh, I want small, petite, this, that. And you just sort of sit there being like, fuck. Like, I hate it. I hate it when like they have all these girls walk in and they're like, don't you have someone more like this or more like that? And they looked at 12 different girls and they weren't enough. That was more like couldn't bother dealing with it. But when it comes to like the weird kinks and shit that people had, none of it threw me off because I actually fucking love people with kinks. I talk about it to this day. Like, I love people with kinks. I think it's so interesting. So none of it really weirded me out.
Was there anyone like where you saw a kink or heard about a kink from someone and they walked down and you're like, I would never fucking think that guy would be into that?
100%. Do you know what? We used to get people come in and be like, humiliation kinks. And now humiliation kinks, like a lot of businessmen like them. And I've just never really been like, I picked that guy in a big suit that looks really macho to be into a humiliation kink, where they want to put on like their stiletto heels, little tiny G-strings and get you to walk them outside in public. And they always like, businessmen would always come in asking for these sorts of things or make them crawl around in front of everyone with a mask on and I'll give you these pictures that you could send to my wife and if I don't do it, you can send it off. And a lot of the girls would say no, but I actually said yes and I was not one of the workers, but I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll do it. And I did like that sort of stuff with a lot of businessmen, would walk them outside on leashes and heels, with their little G-strings on. Everyone's like, It's so funny because Krystal's actually the door lady. I'm like, yeah, come here, bitch. But I loved it. I was like, this is wild. And then when they put their suit on and they get in their Mercedes or whatever, I'm just like, fucking interesting. I'm like, how did we get there though? That's my biggest thing. Like, I love kinks, but I'm like, how did you know you wanted to put those heels on and that G-string?
Well, how did they
Get someone to walk you around on a leash?
My thing was going to be like, how do you do that? Like, how do you walk in and go, hey, would you mind putting me in a G-string and taking these photos? Like, how do they even have that conversation?
So a lot of those conversations actually did happen to me. As in, like, I'd go in and be like, what are you thinking? And they're like, do you have any girls that are interested in doing this sort of thing? And I'm like, a lot of the girls don't really like to do public things because that's why they're in brothels. They like to do behind closed doors. And that's sort of where I came in. And I was like, I'll do it.
But as like, so the dudes are like, when they would just say to you, this is what I'm into.
They're not embarrassed. Because they're in a sex house, they're in a brothel, they're not embarrassed. When someone has any kind of kink and you're around someone that is in the sex industry, they have not one scare. I know this because I get the same sort of chats to this day on my OF and stuff of people being like, can I send you these pictures and you send me voice notes degrading me and whatnot? And I'm like, they don't give a fuck. The moment they come on the platform or in those doors at a brothel, they're like, yeah, I'm safe. Here's what I want.
It's crazy. Like, I just think to myself, like with that sort of stuff, like how do you even, like you said, how do you know that you're into it? And be like, how do you even start? Like what's step one? You know, like what's step one before you get walked on a leash in a G-string at the front of the brothel in Williamstown? Like how do you get there?
I know. Do you know what? I always wonder this. I don't actually have any kinks. Okay. I love hearing about kinks. I love playing out people's kinks. I love all that sort of stuff, but I don't have any. So that is the same question to me. Like I'm always just like, how did we get there? Like you like a urine kink? How did you know getting pissed on turned you on? Like how did we get there? Like, oh, you want like a cage on your cock? How did you know that that was going to be your turn on? When did you go buy the cage? When did you put it on? What the fuck do you mean? I mean, if anyone with kinks out there wants to explain it to me, my inbox is open, but I've got no idea.
It's super fucking interesting. Was there a kink that you saw that was the most weirdest kink? Not extreme, but the most weirdest kink?
Oh, not really. I think like personally for me, when it comes to like urine and feces and stuff, that's probably to me like where I'm like, look, I've pissed on someone before and I remember he was like, let's do this. And it was like a partner at the time. He's like, I really want to try this. And I was like, yep, cool, let's do it. And we did. And I remember pissing on him and then us being looking at each other and being like, well, that wasn't sexy. So what do we do now? And I was like, probably fucking shower. Like, we're not going to bang now, are we? Because like that was fucking weird. So like, I don't know. But like, I remember like playing that out and being like, not as sexy as we thought it was going to be, was it?
That's probably step one. If you step two is if you go, fuck yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, that was hot. Now, like, but it wasn't. He just sort of looked at me and I was like, maybe shower. Like, I don't know. Weird.
So as a whole, when you look back at the industry, like I know you talked about police not coming, there was no security. And now, you know, it's opened up. Like they places like Brothel is a bit old hat now. It's like a cinema or even a nightclub. It's something of the past almost. Do you think they were safe places?
Yes.
For sex workers?
I do. I think they are safe places. I think the idea of a brothel, look, I think they rip the girls off for money, but I think they are a safe place because it's guaranteed the protection, the cleanliness, you know, the women around, the support. Even if something was to go wrong, there's still that support where it's not just going off to like, you know, try and perform at a hotel room or something like that. So I do think the security's there. I do think it's a really well supported area and I do understand why girls would go there instead of trying to do it themselves.
And I know in that industry now, it's like kind of open up more because of the internet and whatnot. So like, you know, a lot, like as I said before, brothels are kind of like a bit of an old hat thing. Do you think that that's a concern?
I think there's so much empowerment around sex work now that not really. Like a lot of people can make more money and take it outside of the brothels. I think the brothels are great there if need be, but I think sex work is so open out in like the industry and in the world now that it's don't really need them. So
you work in so much in them, right? So like I guess the first thing that I think about is safety, right? So if I think of someone in a hotel room, a girl, and she's talking to some dude on text or whatever, and then they catch up, the first thing that I do, especially as a father of two daughters, is I'm like, fuck, like is she going to be safe with that guy? In general, are people relatively fucking normal or is it something that, you know, is there enough creeps out there that they have to be on guard at all time?
Do you know what? One, I think like a lot of girls do outside work and like they will generally like say message me where they are, who's coming in, if they're okay after they've met the person. once the person's gone. So that's still like a safety check-in that they do have with particular people. But I think there's so many weirdos that you could meet one of them just on Tinder or on Instagram or anything. So it's not necessarily the guys that are booking and paying for sex. The guys that are booking and paying for sex generally lack in conversation and connection and being able to actually approach women, and that's why they come to these houses or get escorts, because they know that they can provide a service without feeling intimidated or unsure about it. So I really don't think it's necessarily a lot of the men that book women for sex that are weirdos. I think it's everyone else that sort of you could meet online.
And so when you talk about sex work, obviously it's been around 1,000-year-old. I think it's the oldest industry in the world.
It is.
Yeah. So what do you think men are trying to get, and why do you think it's been so popular for so long?
Well, I mean, what isn't there to like about sex?
That's
Do you know
a
what I
really
mean?
good point.
Like, what isn't there to like about sex? The connection and the intimacy of someone. You don't need to have a whole entire year's worth of conversations with someone to connect during sex. So these men that lack conversation or lack the fact of being able to get affection of someone, that happens during sex. And yes, they're paying for it, but they know what they're getting. So I think it's been around for that long because it's appealing, it's affectionate, and it's warm, and it's fun, and you get essentially, hopefully, an orgasm out of it. I hope. Not always.
Depends how many beers I've had.
It's not guaranteed, guys.
So you're working in that industry. Fuck. What is like a misconception that people think about when they think about working in brothels or, you know, being a madam in a place like that? What is a misconception that you feel that people have that don't know what's actually going on in them?
I think a lot of people think that the girls that work in these industries and that are sluts. It's just a job. So it's not. They're not generally out there doing that in their every day-to-day life. And even if they were, who cares? But they're not. And that they also think that people are in these industries because they need the money. People actually enjoy these industries. They enjoy being sex workers. They enjoy performing in front of a camera, or they enjoy pleasing men in person. And especially the older workers, if you ever sat down and talked to them, the way that they treat these men is like really fascinating to watch, and they make them feel so special. And they do that because they love it. And there are a lot of people out there that are in married relationships that are sex workers, and it's not unknown to the partner because it's just a job. And they are making good money and they enjoy the connection with people. So I think like the idea of being like, oh, they must be fucked up or they have issues or they need the cash is a big misconception. I think people actually really enjoy being in the sex industry.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. And I guess that's what you do think, like, you know, from someone sitting outside, you're always like concerned about, from where I sit, is like, are they there on their own will, you know, or what, or are they drug addicts and they need to do this to feed a drug habit or whatnot. So I guess that's a good way to break it down, is like from your first experience is that it's not necessarily always that. Do you see that though sometimes?
No, you don't see drug addicts or anything coming through the doors. One, they wouldn't make the cut. If you looked under the influence, you'd be sent out. Like there's just no chance they're going to risk their license to put girls in like that. And like girls that have low self-esteem or they come in for the wrong reasons don't make it in the industry. That's just facts in any part of the sex industry. They just can't. They can't hack it for mental health reasons and stuff, so they don't really stick around. So they might give it a go, but that's about it.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So obviously you talk about sex trafficking around the world. In Australia, brothels have been legal for a fucking long time. I don't know since when. Someone will have to fact check me and let me know. But do you think that because obviously there would no doubt there would be sex trafficking in Australia? Is there?
There is definitely sex trafficking in Australia. I think, again, and like whatever, is more with foreigners. So I think there is heaps of documentaries and stuff that have come out about sex trafficking lately. And it is big in Australia, but it is more to do with foreigners and holding their passports and offering visas and shit like that, and girls not being able to pay back and stuff like that. The brothels I've worked in, apart from the Indian girls, there really isn't any foreigners. Like everywhere I was around, nothing seemed forced. I actually am still mates with a lot of these girls. We went out for dinners and lunches and we still catch up and stuff like that. So from my end, I never saw it, but yeah, I know it is definitely something that happens in Australia. It happens across the
You said before that a lot of these girls will have partners. When I was actually dropping the towels off, I would say that. So I would see husbands dropping their wives off at work, give them a kiss and they'd go into work. Is these relationships that the girls have externally to that, are a lot of them married? Are they single? Like what's sort of the situation there?
All the younger girls that I met were quite single. All the old women were married with children. I know for a fact that my girlfriend that went into the industry, she had been in it for quite a while. Her partner was not sexually active at all, but they were together for 7 years and he didn't mind that she worked in the industry and got whatever she wanted out of it, and then came home to him. So like there's so many different stories and reasons why like you can't really like just try and read a book by its cover. So, but there is a lot of people in the industry that have partners, tons.
Do you think that there's a taboo for people who work in their brothels and whatnot when it comes to like they're keeping a secret and things like that? Or a lot of these girls like pretty vocal about it?
Look, a lot of them won't be vocal. A lot of them wouldn't sit down and chat to you and put their face on camera. That's why they work in brothels. I think escorts are more likely to put themselves out there and put the ads out there and book me, whereas the girls in brothels are a lot more discreet. So yeah, I don't think you would find too many girls that do work in brothels that would come up and come for a chat. I think their family and friends generally do know. There are a few girls that I did meet that had a boyfriend or so that didn't know, and that was like a very big deal, obviously for who might walk in and they can, because in all the back rooms you have a camera that shows who walks in. There are a few odd times where someone's like, no, I know that person can't walk out because they don't know. So, I mean, it's really up to their discretion though, isn't it? But I don't think you'd meet too many girls from brothels that would come forward and say I was a brothel worker.
Yeah. Is there anything like you talked about that little backroom camera and then people walk in? Is there any other crazy little things like that that people wouldn't know about?
Nah, not in a brothel. There is no like hidden, like you've got cameras all out in the open, but all the bedrooms and everything are discreet. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, fuck, I can't even imagine like watching someone. It must be some weird stories of like people watching people they knew or, you know, like family members and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had one girl, she was an Indian girl, and her partner walked in and I think he was looking for her because he had suspicion, and she was like, I can't go out because he doesn't know. And I was like, fuck, that is unfortunate. Like, it's not my not my relationship, so you can't say much, but I was like, yeah, that was like pretty full on. But other than that, like no one else that I really met, apart from the fact they just wanted to keep it quiet because they had their own life outside. A lot of these girls are studying and they've got high class jobs and they come for the extra money because they're like, fuck yeah, it pays well and I'm good at this and I like it. A lot of girls come in for like the confidence, which I found massive in regards to like strip joints and even with myself for Onlyfans and stuff like that. Getting naked and that, throwing yourself in the deep end brings you heaps of confidence, which also then follows you with money. So a lot of girls do that because they're like, oh, I'm fucking confident, I'm sexy, I can do this, I'm good in bed, bring in the extra cash, but they still do have like quite a sophisticated job and whatnot on the outside world. So yeah, I think a lot of brothel workers are quite like discreet. Discretion's like a massive one. But yeah, if you see them on the camera, like you'd sort of just pretend they're not there.
Last question before we move off this topic is what is the longevity of a sex worker in a brothel?
Like literally, I would say the older girls been there for years, the younger girls maybe a year or two. And then they've obviously finished whatever they came while they were doing and they moved on.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned before that you work in sex work yourself, you have an OnlyFans. So this is something that I don't also know much about, so I'm going to dive into that. So how did you get into OnlyFans? Obviously you worked in brothels, then you worked in strip clubs, and then you decided to do some stuff yourself. But you weren't, from my understanding, you were never working in sex work prior to OnlyFans?
No, so no, just on the back end, on the other side of the sex work. I did nude modeling for a long time for, you know, confidence and whatnot, coming out of the back end of a really bad relationship. I sort of jumped into nude modeling and was sort of like, let's see how this goes with confidence. And then OnlyFans became a thing. And I was like, hey, mum, seeming's all my pictures are already on galleries on the internet. What if I started selling them? And she was like, go for it. And so I did. And back then when I first started, you could sell like one nude for $500.
Fuck.
Like in USD. And it was like very different. There was hardly any people in OnlyFans. It was very not known about. And because I had quite a large following at the time, it was sort of like, oh my God, you get to see your influencer naked. And so people would like pay crazy money for really ridiculous things. Now, obviously, it's oversaturated and a bit of a different ballgame.
So why do you think you got so comfortable with being nude? Do you think it's because of the industry you're working in for the past decade?
Yeah, because I was around everyone naked 24/7. To me, it was nothing different. I also really don't see the big deal about a naked body. Like, it's up to you how you want to then, like, if for me to look at them and be like, oh, that's disgusting, or that's hot, or that's this, that's my opinion. Like for me to be naked in front of someone, that's up to you in regards to how you want to see me next. So I really couldn't care less. If everyone walked around naked, it wouldn't bother me. Like, do you mean I'm not going to be like, oh, I want to fuck them all, do you know what I mean? Or like anything like that. So like for me, nudity is just a normal thing. And I think I've really discovered this over my modeling years. Like there's some girls that work in the industry and we just strip off and we'll just walk around in front of photographers and we'll just chat naked. And then you see girls that are models, but they don't work in the industry and they're sort of like, and I'm like, oh, I forget. I'll put my pants back on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm also sorry about that.
I guess it goes back to that taboo thing, right? So it's like the only reason why the idea of people walking around naked is strange is because it's taboo. And we talked about the brothel stuff being taboo. We talked about nightclubs being taboo. But it's like if everyone walked around naked all the time, eventually everyone would just get used to it and no one would give a fuck anymore.
Well, think about the tribes that are out there that do walk around naked.
Yeah, that
no one gives a fuck. Like when I went to Europe for the first time and I sat on a beach and everyone's daughter's mum were topless in front of their dads and brothers, no one blinked an eye. They have a million like spas and that in Europe where you go in, you go butt naked, you're not allowed to wear clothing because it contaminates their water from all ages. And no one even find that uncomfortable. But I walked in and being like, oh, is this comfortable? Because it's just like where we're brought up. People were like, no, you can't do that.
I guess it's like a Western taboo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because even like you talk about Japan and stuff, they do it. Like Turkey, they do it. Yeah.
And it's not strange. And no one looks. No one even cares. No one even bats an eye that you're walking around naked. So like for me, I just couldn't care less. And if it's on the internet, so be it. I mean, I like my body.
That's good. That's a good start.
I mean, I like my body. I don't see why it shouldn't be. My favorite comment is, people are always like, oh, you're this or you're a whore or you're that because, your nudes are on the internet. I'm like, I fucking know I put them there. Like, come on. Like, think of a different insult. Call me anything else. But, I like the naked body. I think it's nice.
So you were doing modeling beforehand, right? So obviously you said you had a big following and that was, I'm guessing because you're modeling. I'm assuming I was probably just because you're a chick on the internet at the time and Instagram was popping off. But then you started doing normal modeling for clothes and stuff like that. I know you still do a lot now. And then that step into the naked modeling, like was, for you just wasn't even a leap. It just, oh, okay, yeah, sweet, I'll give this a go.
Yeah. It didn't bother me. I just couldn't care less.
The second one's like you said, you told your mom and your mom was like, yeah, cool. Yeah. How was that? Like when you told your parents, hey, I think I'm going to start selling these photos.
My mum is such a free spirit as well, very open-minded. I don't think she would ever look down as long as you're not hurting yourself or you're not hurting anyone around you. Then she doesn't see anything bad with it. Dad didn't know at the very start. It was a bit more different because obviously his views were a lot more stricter when I was growing up. So that was a bit of a different conversation when it sort of came about, but it wasn't a conversation I actually had. It was my mum that broke it to my dad. And you know what? I really freaked out hard in regards to what my dad would have thought and whatnot, but we're such a close family and I'm really, really tight with my parents that my dad's the same. He's always like, as long as you're learning, as long as you're healthy, as long as you're good, I'm not here to turn around and tell you what you can and can't do. You're not hurting anyone. And it was actually really cool because my parents are massive support system to me now. Obviously, it's gone a little bit further than the naked photos that I sell now, but they are a massive support system. And like my dad's so funny because I don't know if he even 100% gets his head around what OnlyFans is either because he's never looked into it, but he'll like see an article or something and like send it to me. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. Or he'll be like, oh, this person says they do OnlyFans or this is on like BBC or this or that. And like he sends me all these articles about it and I'm like, thanks, Dad. So like, yeah, there's just like, it was such a good support system that I had. And then my friends and stuff that I didn't even blink an eye at coming out in regards to the sex industry.
So break it down for those that don't understand. So if you sign up for OnlyFans, right, and you start to sell photos or whatever, like how do you make money from it?
So back in the day, it used to be like sell one image for $1 million. Now because it's oversaturated, there's two platforms that we all have. We generally have a free account and a paid account. What that means is one, you can just click onto and you get to see me in lingerie. If you want to see me nude, you subscribe to my VIP account. And that's just on the wall. And each person gets to put their own subscription on it. It's up to you what you want to do. And then in the chat box is where you get to talk to me. So through the chat is where I would generally make most of my money, as people can do custom requests. And they can do as fucking weird as they want. And sometimes if we want to make it, but then we put a price tag on it. Sexting sets, which is generally like, you're sexting me with videos back and forth or voice notes. There's just videos that we make and we post daily and you can unlock it and view it. all the stuff that you buy, you get to keep. It's yours in that chat. So generally everything is made within the chat and talking to me.
Okay, I understand. And then, so it's sort of similar to what you were talking about back in the day when you're working in the brothel, but instead of that, it's actually on like a fucking forum almost in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People want to hear it. I want to hear it too. You've no doubt had some really weird requests in that chat box. Can you run us through some really weird requests you've had?
Do you know what okay, my favorite requests are feet people. I love feet people because they don't give a fuck what I'm wearing. It's all about my feet. And it's going to be the funnest. And like, I always giggle when I make foot content because like, you like, smell my socks or whatever to the camera. And I just giggle and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? But like, even on the weekend, and my housemate Chad loves what I do because I always come out with the strangest things. Like he'll come home and I'll be like completely in like a fishnet gear with nothing under and high heels and my hair done. And he'll be coming home from his like day job being like, what the fuck? Like, I love this. Or like the strangest outfits I'll be wearing and he'll walk in and be like, oh, what is this job? But on the weekend, we went to the cinemas and this guy was messaging my OnlyFans being like, please, please, please let me be your footstool. So he wants to come over and sit under my feet for an hour and he pays me like $1,000 and I just put my feet on him. And I've like never taken him up on the offer because I'm like, fucking random, yeah? Like, I don't want you in my house. But sure, like, and then he messaged me being like, let me pay for all your drinks tonight. And so I was like, sure, send him my PayPal. And he sent me all this money. And I was like, okay, well, because you've been so nice, I'll let you be my footstool. So I'll let you know how that goes. But I said, yes. So that to me is always interesting, people with feet and what they want. It's not like they ever want to touch them or anything. They just want to be a part of the process around it. I had one lady that used to spend hundreds of dollars on me to just get content of me in boots. Not me, just my legs, boots and feet. In water, out of water, in the shower, pulling them on, pulling them off. And I was just been like, fuck, how did we get here? What is my life? Like, my housemate would be like calling me being like, oh, I just served X amount of people on production. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm pulling on and off some leather boots for the last 20 minutes. I'm like, what is my life? But they're the most simple and my favorite sort of content. Then you go into like, there's some people that will give you a whole script. And it's so hard to do a whole script because you can't just stop your filming. You're already like half naked with a toy or doing whatever and you're trying to remember word for word what this person wants you to do. I think the only one I've ever said no to was someone asked me to role play children that we reported and sort of went through. That was the only one I've ever said no to because I was like, that's really fucked up. But other than that, a lot of mine is, I have a lot of simps on my page where it's more like they just want that I read their poems naked and I read love letters or tell them how much I love them and stuff like that. I get a lot of that. I don't get some of the requests that I've heard other girls do get. I also am a solo OnlyFans girl, so I don't do like collaborations. So mine's pretty chill. I mean, you're not allowed to do kinks on OF. So if they ask you for like peeing content and stuff, you can't. So any of that sort of weird stuff comes in. That's where OnlyFans draws the line. Yeah, they say no. So no incest and no kinks. There's other platforms for that though. I'm not on them. But yeah, like you do get some of the requests like, can I see you shit? Can I see you piss? But like you're like, well, you can't do that. I would love to, but I can't. Oh, shit. But you do get those requests and I just think interesting. But also I don't think I would ever be able to do something like that because then I'm like, that actually is on the internet forever, guys. And I don't know if like one day I want to be walking down the street and someone like just upload a video of me like taking a shit on the floor. Like, that's a bit too far for me.
Do you ever get stopped in public where people are like, hey, like I'm subscribed to you?
A lot of dudes do. Fucking balls to them, like for coming and telling me that they're subscribed to my OnlyFans. A lot of them in pubs. People come and be like, oh, I'm on your OF. I'm talking to you on OF. And I'm like, I guess we all see me naked. But like, that's one thing that I actually love. Like I have so much confidence walking into any room because there's a good chance someone has seen me naked. And I'm like, once you see me naked, what can you do? Like there's no way to put me down, degrade me or anything. Because I'm like, one, you paid for it. So thanks for subscribing. But two, I'm like, well, there's like, that's as vulnerable as I get.
And so the other one is like people, are they all from all over the world, like your subscribers?
Yeah. Mine are a lot. So America, UK, then Australia and EU.
How do these guys find you?
I have a lot of social media platforms. I think I have like 10 Instagrams, 4 TikToks, 2 Twitters. My Twitter's pretty fucking abrupt if you go and look it up. But I have quite large followings on all of them, but it's just constantly posting 24/7. It goes through everyone's For You pages and filters. And I think there's this video going on around at the moment that's caught traction of me saying I got stood up by a guy and it was like a lie. I made it up for views. I was just sitting there really bored one day and somehow it's like taken off and half the crowd's like, fuck you, you deserve it, you're a whore. And the other half's like, I'll take you out. And then there's like 900 people in my DMs at the moment being like, baby, I treat you good. I actually accepted one of those DMs and he is buying me a ticket to Greece, guys. I'm going to Mykonos
That's
to party with him for 4 days. I had a FaceTime with him yesterday and I was like, fuck it, why not? But yeah.
Yeah, so you're just posting content like of you, being you, and then people find it and they sort of like kind of leak down the funnel and then they sort of join the journey.
Yeah, well, I mean, like there's like so many different ways that you can promote yourself, right? And I'm not really the sexy type in regards to being able to do like the cute dances and all that shit. So a lot of mine's quite sarcastic and dumb shit. And if you follow my Instagram, it's pretty much on brand with who I am in general. So I think the idea of OnlyFans and the only way it does take off these days is if they can fall in love with your character and who you are online and like sort of what your presence is. You can't just be a really cute girl.
Yeah, getcha. So another one that people talk about, and I can't not say it, is there's a whole lot of talk about people who are successful from OnlyFans like yourself, and then a lot of people that jump in and then they sort of don't do well and they jump out. What's your sort of like take on that?
My take would be, look, I started when I was in my later 20s. I wouldn't jump into OnlyFans at 18. No way. I would try and figure out what it is you want to do with life first because it's not an easy industry to crack. It's also very time consuming. It's not like all freedom like everyone thinks it is. And I do have like a big agency and stuff that work with me behind all of my posting and whatnot and like everything that is set out. I would honestly say I wouldn't jump into something like OF until you're like 24 years old. When you're completely developed and you understand what you want to do and you've given life a crack, if you then move into the industry of sex and be like, fuck yeah, okay, yeah, I actually do want to do this. I enjoy it. Cool, good. But don't do it so early because it is on the internet. I don't care that's on the internet. I will never care. I mean, as you can tell by the tattoos and shit across my body, I don't really look like the caring type. But I think a lot of people do freak out when they jump in, realize it's really hard, they don't make any money, and now they've got a sex tape out there. Like, I wouldn't do that at an early age.
For sure. And that makes sense. Like, I guess there's a certain type of personality type. Like, I'm the same, you know, like I don't give a fuck about anything. Not that I'm looking to start an OnlyFans, but if there is an industry that wants to see a fat dad naked, let me know in the comments below.
Maybe you get like these fetish websites like popping up.
I knew a dude who sold his feet in Queensland. He was making like $600 a week. And I was like, bro, how the fuck do you get into that? But he kept it like it was like a locked treasure chest. He was like, there was no way he was giving the contacts over. They will make him do weird stuff too. Like he had to like put his feet into different shoes and like put him into different like soaps and things. And I know you talked about that. He had to put him in bubbles and in different boots, and it was strange. But and then he was like weirdly out about telling me, and I was like, dude, I reckon that's sick. Yeah,
I mean, if you can crack the industry of just foot content, I'm like, fucking good on you, because I would have rather that. I love foot content, but no, good on them.
So reflecting on your last decade plus in the sex industry, is there any do's or do nots that you would say to someone who's watching this, who's interested in potentially getting involved or even just like being part of it?
If you do it, also be proud about it. Don't let anyone tell you what you are and aren't. Like, I think it gave me heaps of confidence, and no one could literally say anything to me and me be offended, which I think is like a massive positive from the industry that I have. Don't shit on camera. Don't do girl one covered or anything. No, I don't really. I mean, each to their own. I'm not here to yuck someone's yum. So I don't really have anything like that. Don't be a predator in the industry is something I would say when it comes to men, because that can be very full on, you know, asking and begging and shit like that. Don't put down other people in the industry either is probably one thing that I would say. And that's probably about it.
So it all goes back to, regardless if you're a sex worker or you're a participant in sex work, just be a fucking good person. Don't be a piece of shit.
100%. Like, I've seen a few different little clips where people put down, you know, other workers or industries within the sex industry, and I just don't really see the point in it.
Relationships, like working in this industry for so long, is that a hard thing? Like, we're having a relationship?
I actually recently proposed to myself, went to a jeweler, designed an engagement ring and took myself off the market. So I don't give a fuck about a relationship.
That's a wicked answer.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw myself an engagement party, by the way. No, so I actually had a partner. We entered together, and he was all for it. He did a lot of my filming of content, stuff like that. We split not because of OnlyFans. It had nothing to do with it. And since then, I really have had no interest at all.
Cool.
But I mean, there's a lot of people that are married and have really good sex lives and have all this sort of stuff on OF and in these industries. So I really don't think it's too hard to find. I think you just got to find the right people that are into the same thing as you. If you're dating someone that's not into what you're doing, maybe that's not the right person for you in general. So I think that would be the only reason it would fall apart.
Yeah, that makes complete. Working in OnlyFans, you said before you've got a team behind you, and you're it's all about freedom and stuff. Like, how many hours are you putting into this? Is it a labor extensive job?
It actually is. You know what? A lot of management agencies will come to you and say, you only have to work 1 day a week and we'll take care of the rest. You have all this free time. That's a lie. If you work 1 day a week, you're not going to make it. We put in a lot of time, tons. Today, before I came here, my mum came over and filmed 3 hours worth of me doing TikToks on and off. And my mum, like I said, my parents support me 100% in what I do. And so it's pretty funny. And she helps with the angles and everything. But she came over for 3 hours today and did that. When I go home later on, I'm going to write down all the stuff that I have to do for my next scene or my next whatever. So every day we take pictures, every day we do TikToks, every day we do Instagram reels, we do Twitter pics, and we upload consistently 3 or 4 times a day on multiple platforms. Not to mention, we also have to do customs when they come in. We have to do PPVs, which is your pay-per-view videos per week. We get ready with different sets on sexting and stuff that we can have available while we're going if we're not doing it live. All of our images and little videos, all of our teasers, our intros, our reels. And then if you're not just doing OF, I'm not just doing OF, I do modeling as well to promote myself in other ways. Then you're trying to set up photo shoots and you're trying to get images to constantly have something to post all the time. Same with stories. And then obviously I do things like the podcast, and we're trying to make a YouTube channel. So my whole day actually probably work a lot more consistently on my phone. If you looked at my phone screen time, it's actually really disgusting. I think it's 13 hours a day my screen time is, and we have multiple phones. So, and then it's also conversing back and forth with our agencies. So it's actually very time consuming. If you do it the right way, you'll be able to make good money out of it and be able to leave, and that will be worth it. But it's not something that you can just do for 1 day a week and then hope money comes in.
I think that's all content creators, even myself. I'm a 13-hour guy because I'm sitting there cutting stuff up. So
always
people watch these 1 minute reels not knowing that it takes you 4 or 5 hours to do it. So basically, reflecting back on when you first started, right? Sex working, the public perception of it to what it is now. In reflection, how do you feel that has changed, and is that a positive?
It's a massive positive. I mean, it's legal to be a sex worker in Australia now. So, I mean, it makes you feel really good about being able to say, yeah, I'm a sex worker, and no one being like, oh my God, it's dodgy, because it's not. I think it is so open on the internet and people are so angry about it. They're so oh, you do OF and you're that. Sex work has always been around. It never went anywhere. The internet's just progressing, and so things are coming more available to search. I think it's awesome because I don't think there should be some weird chat about sex. Sex isn't a strange thing. And I think the fact that everyone is so cross at sex work is so odd because we all have sex in our personal lives. I understand it's intimate, but it's still intimate. You buying something of me, doing something intimate is still an intimate thing. I don't really see why the next person that's not buying it should be angry about it. So I think we should all celebrate it and get over it. I don't get pissed off because someone's fucking tiling a house. Do you mean? Or being a plumber. I'm not pissed off because that guy works at McDonald's. So don't be angry at me because of what I do for work. I'm not out there rubbing myself on you or pushing myself on anyone else or in any way. It's you come to my platform, you buy, those people come seeking something and I provide it. I like it. I think it's great.
And you think in general, people when you're talking to your friends or your family and stuff, people they don't really give a fuck as much anymore?
Oh my God, no, not at all. Do you know my friends don't there's not even a chance they bring it up to me. It's not even a conversation at a table, what I do for work, which is awesome because it's not a conversation at the table what they do for work. It's so blasé. The only time we muck around about what I do for work is the other day my housemate got a haircut. It was his birthday and he got it for free because someone said, oh, your housemate's Krystal. And he said, oh, Krystal, your tits got me a free haircut. Like, it's only ever in laugh do we actually talk about what we do or what I do for work. I think it's, not even a bother.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming down here and letting me, I guess, split this fucking watermelon open and open it up for everyone to see. Because a lot of these questions, are no doubt, heaps of people have been thinking or want the answer to, but they're too uncomfortable to ask, I guess. And in saying that, there's been some questions that I've asked and I'm like, I can't believe I'm fucking asking this. But I'm doing it for the viewers at home. So thanks so much for taking an hour out of your time. Plug. If you want to plug your OnlyFans, you're more than welcome to, but also your podcast, because I think it's sick what you're doing. Please plug your podcast and I'll put it in the chat below, like the fucking description, for anyone that wants to check it out, and give us a little bit of a brief summary of what it is.
Yeah, no worries. So our podcast is called The Naked Truth Pod. It is me and another girl within the industry, and we pretty much just talk to everyone from all ends of the industry. So from escorts to kink play to Onlyfans, strippers, all of it. And we sort of just get like the dirty little details or the funny stories. I'm sure you'll see by my facial expression on our podcast, I get shocked by some of the shit that comes out. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that's called The Naked Truth. And if you find that podcast, you will find my link to my OnlyFans.
This is the one thing that I always find interesting, right? So like you're talking in groups and things are definitely getting more normalized. People don't give a fuck about it. But everyone I know reckons they don't use OnlyFans, right? But they have to, because there's like so many people on that platform making fucking so much money and like so many subscribers. So I think the taboo now is not people that work in OnlyFans, it's the people that aren't willing to actually admit that they're subscribed to it.
I mean, don't admit, just keep paying and I'll be happy.
Awesome. I reckon that's a wicked way to finish this off. Again, thank you so much for coming down.
No worries. Thanks for having
Legend.
me.